Nice to meet you, Scott.
Nice to meet you.
And
Jerry, I'll come up.
the seat is relatively warm tonight.
Yeah, if I could start, my name is Scott Lane, I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Recycle Bank.
I'm gonna ask everyone to be quiet, please. Aside from me, has the floor.
There's a chair right
I've worked for Recycle Bank since 2006. If I could, just let me explain the history of our relationship with Casella. So there were some questions here earlier that might help clear up some confusion. We entered into an agreement with Casella in February of 2007. Shortly thereafter, they had asked us to provide our services to the town of Southbridge. So we started sometime 2007. That's a 3-year agreement. And the nature of that agreement is that we provide the rewards program, which includes
Okay, Jim.
which includes setting up the rewards and
God did it.
getting the data from the trucks, setting up the rewards program, importing that data to create points, and I'll speak a little bit about how the points work versus pounds. And what Casella's responsibility is to provide, they were purchasing the equipment on the truck, they were running the trucks, they're maintaining the equipment on the trucks, and so forth. So the way that the points work is you get, for each pound you recycle, you get 2.5 points. So it's 2.5 points equals 1 pound of recycled material. There is a monthly cap. The cap is really there to discourage people from putting bowling balls or cinder blocks in the recycling container. So
Wouldn't that be fraud?
the points cap is 450 points per month, which equates to 5,000. Is roughly worth, depending on what you redeem it for, it's worth about 10 cents. So if you capped out on an annual basis, you can get about $540 worth of value.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? So is that to say that you're 5,400 points?
Annually.
So does that represent 25 cents, 2,700 pounds of recyclable
That's a
material
lot, it's a lot.
per year,
Yes.
per? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So, some of the questions we've gotten is about how points are generated. It's 1 pound equals 2.5 points. We get the data from their trucks, and we import that data in, and then just that creates the calculation from pounds to points. There is times where the equipment's not working, whether it's the transmission on the truck or it's actually the RFID reading equipment on the truck. And in that case, what we'll have to do is we'll have to give a manual, what we call a manual credit. We'll have to credit off some sort of history. And that doesn't happen that often. We had some issues late summer that where we had some manual crediting, which got resolved. We also get calls from folks that say they recycled and they didn't get points. A lot of times we'll give them a manual credit, but if it's a habitual thing, if it happens 2, 3, 4 times in a row, that's something where the chip on the tag, the chip on the cart needs to be checked. And that's something that we communicate over to Casella, and these guys do, because they're in market and they have the inventory of chips and carts. We don't distribute the carts, we don't do anything with the chips, but what we do is work with these guys to make sure that when we get complaints from folks, because they really don't know if a chip isn't working, they get the raw data from the truck and import it to us. And when folks call and complain that they didn't get their points on a regular basis, and we look at their history, we'll give that information over to Casella and have them go out and check the cart, replace the cart, replace the chip, something like that. So that's really the kind of mechanics of how the program works. From a recycling performance perspective, I think there's, while we're doing good, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. I looked at the recycling performance, and if you look at the folks that are recycling at least once a month, the folks that do recycle in this town, recycle at least once a month, they're recycling almost 600 pounds per home per year, which is a pretty good number. But the problem is there are a lot of folks that are recycling less than once a month. There's a lot of folks that have recycled less than 11 times this year. And there's a whole handful of folks that haven't recycled at all this year. And from an outreach and education perspective, I think that's the things that we all should be focusing on, is how do we get people that aren't recycling to recycle more, and how do we do that? Is that modifying the rewards program? Is that just outreach and education, letting people know that the program exists and that the rewards exist? But I think that's where some of the focus is, because the folks that are recycling seem to be doing a good job.
My question is, when you do call and you have a complaint about the points, and examples, my neighbor also will call and complain about the points. Now, the issue is that I get 55 points credit, he'll get 100 point credit. Shouldn't it be a standard credit no matter what?
Depends on the
No,
way.
it's your history.
But my history is, my bins are solid full, that I actually stand one of my kids in it to pack more because I cannot fit anymore, and it's overflowing.
Yeah.
And I used to get 175 points each pickup.
And now you don't.
Now I'm getting 35
So-
or absolutely nothing, but you know what, I'm tired of calling.
Scott, this is what we hear over and over
And I'm
over
frustrated
again.
calling.
Mr. Diorio, he has it in his logs, over and over. How do you go from 170 points to 30? Yeah, and it's the same bin.
And then you get a credit of 55 points. And I'm sorry, but I saved mine for school grants.
Yeah.
That, we work hard of writing the grants to put towards the school that I work for, so that we can get that for our students. And when you actually go down that low, now I expected to go from the last grant to the next grant to be able to accumulate, because we get, for every 100 points, they give us $10. Well, I donated, I believe, $170, because I had 1,700 points. I can't even give that this time, and it's frustrating, because
There's a way to undermine people's faith in recycling.
it's just to the point, I don't even, I get frustrated. I want the kids to recycle, I teach the kids at my school to recycle, the whole 9 yards. But when you're not getting what you're getting, it gets very frustrating. And you know what they told me, Casella told me? Go stand out there and watch the guy make sure that they're weighing. I'm sorry, I work a full-time job. I'm not gonna take a day off to stand, it's not my job, it's their job.
I agree with that.
And that's what's very frustrating.
Hang on.
Yeah, the way it should work is just our customer service reps are looking at your historical
Right.
recycling, and that's what they should be giving you credit if there's a mixed credit. If that's
We
happening,
shouldn't have to. I'm sorry, but after a while,
Yeah.
2 months, I'm not calling no more. I gave up. I gave up on calling because it's too frustrating and it's not fixing it. I'm calling.
Scott, this is what we hear over and over
And I'm
over
frustrated
again.
calling.
Mr. Diorio, he has it in his logs, over and over. How do you go from 170 points to 30? Yeah, and it's the same bin.
And then you get a credit of 55 points. And I'm sorry, but I saved mine for school grants.
like that. My question being is that you're waiting for it to get to you to find out that an RFID tag didn't read. Now, that would be in the data that you recorded, because you would have a null value in that field.
Right, the number should be lower.
Well, the
Right,
weight
you're-
would be correct. What's happening is it's getting there, and they can't associate that weight with your account because the ID chip didn't read. So they can't, whatever the number was, it can't get associated. My question is, if you're recording those values, I mean, if it's in the data format, you should be able to go, give me all the ones that didn't read. Because if you're at, 20 whatever street, and somebody's at 24 whatever street, and 22 whatever street didn't read, well, I know that read, and I know that read, I already know 22 didn't read. I don't
And
have to wait for them to
obviously it
get back
has
to
to be
me.
the bid
so
or
what we
tell
can
me.
do is
chip
just
or
we can
whatever.
start providing the raw data back on a daily basis.
On a daily basis, because then they would already know ahead of time, before there's a complaint, if something's not reading. Second of all, the possibility is that, this equipment's moving. You could have a loose wire on that antenna, and it could read intermittently, So if you have it, you go out there and then the chip's good, you test it, the chip's good, but it didn't read, then it would suggest to me that the antenna is a loose wire. I mean, I used to repair radios for the service too, so